Gentlemen, welcome back to MGTOW Money. Today's topic, 10 actions for the FU life. Before we get to that, thank you to the ongoing support from the Patreon investors in this channel. And thank you to Garrett, the newest member of the MGTOW Money army of Patreon supporters. And Patreon supporters, heads up, check your email. I sent out a note to you yesterday, a couple of different ideas. One is an idea that specifically will put an easy $100, 100 USD into your pocket, as well as a couple of other ideas for you that could potentially put some money in your pocket. I know that one of them has literally put thousands of dollars into some other people's pockets. So again, heads up, Patreon supporters, check your email. Money in your pocket, money in your inbox. Men, see the video description today. Become a Patreon supporter of this channel now. Also, gentlemen, see the video description today of a couple of books I recommend on early retirement, because we're going to be talking about that in the FU life in just a second. So again, I urge you to see a couple of books that I highly recommend to you in today's video description. All right, let's get on to the 10 actions for that FU life, or for what I'm terming financial independence, because that's what this channel is all about. Men, look, MGTOW should be for you, at least it has been for me in my life, simply a stepping stone to my achievement of financial independence, of my summiting that Mount Everest of FU money, where I could walk away from the blue pill world and do what I want, when I want, where I want, with whom I want. And again, I'm going to include a video that I did many months ago where I talked about some different ways to do so. But a commenter recently mentioned about that maybe this channel has too much of a focus on cutting expenses, etc., and that's how you should achieve FU money, etc. And instead, there's a counterpoint that instead you ought to be focusing on increasing your income and increasing your cash flow. And for example, starting a business. And there are a lot of popular ideas about this, about just investing in real estate, for example, or starting some sort of leveraged business, etc. And just that is the way to achieve financial independence. And let me just explicitly say, I get it. I fully understand that is one path to financial independence. That is one way, men, that you can achieve that FU money. And again, see the video in the video description. I talked about this in the past. However, for me, the purpose of this channel, it's been my experience as well as many others, and we're going to get to this in just a second, that by decreasing your expenses, again, by making that your focus, again, I'm speaking from my experience and others, that it's much easier, it's much quicker to do so, because by decreasing your expenses, you correspondingly have more discretionary money to play with. And when you have more discretionary money, you can, of course, invest that money and correspondingly, hopefully, put that money into assets being things that pay you while you sleep. So again, you're taking your money, your discretionary money, your extra money that you have laying around, and you're buying assets, and you avoid buying liabilities. All right. Today's topic on 10 action steps, I'm going to include a link to an article, again, in the video description, that lays out, quote, 10 pillars of financial independence. This ties in with a podcast, evidently, this other person did, and that type of thing. And I like this list very succinctly because it describes what we're talking about here. And I'm going to quickly run through this. And you need to think about how many of these things you're doing, because all these things you can do today to be on the road to your FU money. All right, 1. You need to lower your housing cost. From the second video that I did on this channel, I highly recommended that you've got to get control of your biggest monthly expense, and this applies to any man in the world. It's their housing expense. Get it as low as possible. 2, this person mentions driving used cars. Couldn't agree more. Go as cheap as possible. If you can even go carless, so much the better. Personally, I've now evolved. I still own a car, but my goodness, would I like to get rid of it. And I'm constantly thinking of ways that I would love to get rid of it. 3, cut the cable. Personally, I haven't paid for cable television in, I'm guessing, at least 20 years or so. I highly encourage you, get rid of the cable television. It's garbage. 4, this person mentions, oh, surprise, surprise, lowering your tax liability by maxing out your tax-deferred vehicles such as 401k, 457, 403b, IRA, HSA, etc. Absolutely, absolutely, yes, yes, and yes. I have mentioned this more times than I care to remember. Men, I hope you're taking this seriously. I didn't make up this list of 10 items. This person is specifically advocating you max out your tax-deferred vehicles. Next, use cheaper cell phone service. I did a video months ago, probably nearly a year ago, specifically talking about you need to seek out other alternatives to whatever cell phone contract, whatever you're involved with now. You Patreon supporters know what I'm talking about. I sent you out a couple of terrific ideas that'll get your cell phone plan down to, let's say, $10 to $20 a month. And no contract, by the way. 6, use credit card rewards. I couldn't agree more. This is an outstanding idea for many men who can control their spending. Credit cards can be a terrific idea, and you can get instant money, if you will, rebated to you. Specifically, not just on travel, but you can get it on any spending that you do. For example, I have a particular credit card from a very large bank in the United States that I use worldwide that always, I emphasize that, always generates me 2.6% cash back. So in other words, every time I put $1,000 on that card, I get $26 back instantly. So it's a no-brainer for me to use that card. There's no additional fees. There's no foreign exchange fees, etc. Next, cut your grocery store bills. As one commenter mentioned several videos ago, he was talking about how he is on a 1 meal a day plan, as well as I've also read a lot of studies, and commenters have mentioned this, about the importance and the health benefits of intermittent fasting. There's no question, men, you need to consider this. This is a great way not just to lose weight, but to feel better, to look good. This is about you and your health. As I've mentioned in a prior video, there is nothing more important than your health. You can be a multi-billionaire, but if you don't have good health, it's irrelevant. Next, increase your income and consider adding multiple income streams. Men, this is a no-brainer. If your sole source of income is your job, you are making a serious mistake. You are leading what I would call a fragile lifestyle. You need to set up multiple income streams. You need to be out hustling for extra small amounts. I've mentioned this in numerous videos in the past. Again, Patreon supporters, you know what I'm talking about. I specifically have sent out very specific ways that men, you can make money sitting in your underwear or wherever you may be, wherever you've got an internet connection, where you can make money without really doing anything. You don't have to talk to anyone. There are ways to do so with a small amount of hustle. You don't have to be very smart. It doesn't have anything to do with your ethnic background, etc. Next, this person mentions in their list using low-cost index funds as investments. That is absolutely dead on. That is something I admit I have not emphasized enough on this channel. I probably should have. Vanguard, of course, being one of the leading worldwide mutual fund managers, using low-cost index fund investments can work extremely well for many men. I highly recommend, at least, again, when you're thinking about some of your stock investments, as well as your bond investments for that matter, that you do consider Vanguard or Fidelity or even Charles Schwab has some as well now. Again, low-cost index funds are extremely important. Be careful. Again, I mentioned this in the past about looking at the expense ratio whenever you're looking at a mutual fund. All right, lastly, this is the big granddaddy. Listen very carefully, men, to what I'm about to say. I have said, I don't know how many times, I'm blue in the face by talking about the importance of determining your magic number. As this person says, the 10th pillar of financial freedom is the 4 4% rule. That 4% rule is specifically based around determining your financial freedom. As they say here regarding the 4% rule, this is the ultimate equation behind achieving financial independence. It is, men. I cannot emphasize enough. Determine your magic number, and that gives you a target to shoot for. And it is my belief and my experience, as well as in talking to other people, a man who is focused on this, who's focused on hitting their magic number in roughly 15 years of hard effort, many actions going towards it, can do so. They can hit their magic number in roughly 15 years. So if you're 25, of course, by the time you're 40, which men, I can assure you, is not old at all, you can absolutely or approximately hit your magic number. And let's say you don't. As I used to think when I was in my 30s working towards my magic number, and even when I got into my early 40s when I was working towards it, I was thinking, what's the downside? Even if I don't hit it, what is my downside? Okay, so I got a pile of cash and it's not quite as much as I need, but you know what? Maybe I could just start working part-time. Maybe I could start working gig jobs. Maybe I'd start doing something that I really, really enjoyed that might pay me substantially less, but that I could continue to have some money behind me that it would sort of subsidize doing what I really want. Men, again, this is, see the video description today. This is, scroll down to the bottom of this blog post. I didn't write the post. I don't know the author, but it gives you a nice 10-point checklist of things that you need to work through, because I can virtually guarantee you, if you're doing these 10 things within about 15 years, you will achieve that FU money. You will be able to do what you want, with whom you want, where you want, when you want. Men, as always, hit the like button if you found this useful. John Galt, out.